I have some very good news if you're looking to buy an iPad in 2025. Welcome back to the channel, guys. If you've been watching this channel for a while but you haven't hit that subscribe button, give it a little click, please, wherever it is. Some people do forget to do that. I do that myself. I completely understand why, but it makes a massive difference if you just give it a little. If you haven't done that because you've just found me, I understand. I need to earn that click, which hopefully I'll do in this video. Okay, the iPad. Good news, buying an iPad is very straightforward. I'll explain why that is in a second. The bad news is that we still never know what Apple is doing next with the iPad. So with the iPhone, for instance, you know pretty much that every September we're going to get a new iPhone. It's almost guaranteed. The Mac is relatively predictable as well. The iPad, whether it's the entry-level version, the iPad mini, the iPad Air, the iPad Pro, we just have no idea. And that does make it difficult for people like me who make buying guides for these things. However, I've given up worrying about what's coming next because you can't rely on Apple for the iPad. They could do anything with it. We just don't know. The great thing about this device, though, is that if you buy one now, it will last you for ages and ages. There's a stat somewhere which says that I think on average people keep their iPads for at least 3 years. That says everything you need to know about this device. So for this 2025 iPad buying guide, I'm going to go through each of the currently available iPads and give you my advice on buying them and who they're for, and very quickly go through the current rumours of what we might see in 2025, and then explain why they don't matter. Before I do that, just a very quick word from today's sponsor, which is Paperlike. Every single iPad I buy, and I buy quite a lot of them, has one of these applied for 2 reasons. The first reason is a screen protector, and you do not want to get that lovely iPad display damaged, and it does a very good job of that. It doesn't dull the colours, the contrast isn't affected, it still looks vibrant and lovely, but it's just protected. The second reason is that this makes your iPad feel like, as the name suggests, paper, and it's very difficult to get this across on this video, but if you do any kind of drawing, writing, sketching, illustration, that sort of stuff on your iPad with your Apple Pencil, the Paperlike absolutely transforms it. It feels like paper, it sounds like paper, and it is so addictive to use. There's a reason so many of my audience buy these Paperlikes whenever I talk about them. That's all I'm going to say about it. Go and check it out. The link's in the description. I think you're going to love this. Let's start obviously with the cheapest iPad you can buy. This is the entry-level iPad. It used to be the 10th generation iPad, and it costs 329 quid. That's what it starts at in the UK, or $349. And it's very hard to recommend anything other than this if you just want an iPad. If you're not bothered about ProMotion and Face ID, and that's it really. And I guess the Apple Pencil Pro, because you can't use that with this, you have to use the USB-C Apple Pencil. But if none of that bothers you, and you just want an iPad to do iPad stuff with it, get this. In terms of the rumours, we'll probably get a new one in 2025, which might even be here by the time that you watch this video. The only reason we'll get a new entry-level iPad in 2025 is to enable Apple Intelligence. This one, the current version at the time of filming, which is December 2024, is not capable of Apple Intelligence, so the new one, the upgraded one, will be. But that's the only difference. Everything else will probably be the same, maybe some refreshed colours and that sort of stuff. But Apple Intelligence is still very early in development. It's still beta. It's incredibly underwhelming. And again, if you just want an iPad, I don't think you'll care that much about Apple Intelligence at the moment. The other thing is that this has the best, hands down, Magic Keyboard case going, which is the, I always forget what it's called. It's called the Magic Keyboard Folio. It comes in 2 parts. So basically, you have the keyboard, which detaches and means you can then just use this as a nice stand. But if you don't want to do that, you can keep it as a proper Magic Keyboard with a keyboard and a trackpad and a function key row. It's very hard to know why you wouldn't buy the entry-level iPad if you just want an iPad. If you want more, keep watching. Although keep watching anyway because, algorithm and all that sort of stuff. iPad mini. This came out in 2024. This is the 7th generation. And if you're part of the iPad mini fan club, of which I'm a fully paid up member, it was a bit of it was quite a disappointing release, wasn't it? Let's be honest. I've kind of sussed out that the reason Apple didn't do much with this over the 6th generation is because the target market for it doesn't care about ProMotion and Face ID and mini Magic keyboards and all that sort of stuff that I wanted and lots of other people wanted. It's pilots, it's people who use these in industries where they need an iPad that you can hold like that with one hand, and it's people who literally don't care about those things that I've just mentioned. Clearly, Apple has done its numbers, it's done its market research, its user research, and it knows that they didn't need to do anything other than put a new chip in here to enable Apple Intelligence and new Wi-Fi, and that's pretty much it. They haven't really done anything else. It's the same design, which is fine because it's lovely, but more importantly, it is the same 60 Hertz non-promotion, slightly jelly scrolling screen, which is the thing that seems to bother most people. That said, it's still the best iPad Apple has ever made. I know that's a big claim and it will annoy some people. If that bothers you, get involved in the comments and tell me, tell the world, tell Apple what they should have done with the iPad mini 7. But the buying guidance for this, because 2025, there's not going to be another iPad mini. There's not going to be an iPad mini 8th generation this year. It's just not going to happen. There will probably, possibly, maybe be one in 2026, which might have an OLED screen, etc., etc. But that isn't guaranteed. There was a massive gap between 2021 and 2024 for this iPad, so don't expect anything soon. So the buying guidance is really straightforward. If you've been lusting after an iPad mini for ages now, just buy this. And similarly, if you've got an iPad mini and it's dying or the screen's broken, whatever, just get this. Forget about the 60 Hz display, forget about the jelly scrolling, which is slightly less pronounced on this compared to the previous one, and just enjoy it because it is utterly amazing. iPad Air, which I don't have in this studio, but I have used extensively in both 11-inch and 13-inch form, I still think is one of Apple's greatest ever triumphs. The reason for that is because if the entry-level iPad isn't your thing at all, if the iPad mini is just too small, and if the iPad Pro is just too expensive, the iPad Air sits perfectly in the middle, and you do have two sizes. You have the 11-inch, which starts at $599, and the 13-inch, which starts at $799. And at that price, it makes the iPad Pro a very difficult iPad to recommend. Okay, we don't get Face ID, we still don't get ProMotion, there's no 120 Hz refresh rate on the iPad Air, it's still a 60 Hz panel, but if you've never experienced that on an iPad, you don't know what you're missing. And it's got the M2 chip in it, so very quickly the rumour for 2025, and this may have happened by the time that you watch this obviously, is that we'll probably get the M3 chip in the iPad Air. Great, I mean that means apparently a 30% improvement in CPU performance and a 15% improvement in graphics. Will that make any difference to most people who use the iPad Air? No, and there's not really any other rumoured changes that are interesting apart from Wi-Fi 7. It will look the same, it will have the same display, it'll have the same battery life, it will have all the same things that matter to people. So again, if you're watching this now and we still have the M2 iPad Air and you've been lusting after it for a while, just get it. If the M3 version's here, again, just get it or save yourself a bit of money and find an M2 version on the second-hand market or the refurb store because that will be an absolute bargain. And yes, it's compatible with the Apple Pencil Pro, which is the best version of the Apple Pencil ever made, and okay, that's more money on top of what you're spending on the iPad, particularly if you add a Magic Keyboard into that as well. It starts racking up, doesn't it, in terms of the cost, but it's still cheaper than an iPad Pro. And if you've been looking at that iPad Air for a while now and you're thinking, should I just buy it? Just buy it. Apple did something very strange in 2024 with the iPad Pro. They put the M4 chip in it before they put it into one of these, which is a MacBook Pro. Crazy. I don't think that's ever happened before, but it did happen. And they also made this the thinnest Apple product ever. And if you've never got your hands on the new M4 iPad Pro, it's worth going to an Apple store just to try it out, just to pick it up and marvel at how on earth they've managed to fit a tandem OLED display in here, along with all of the gubbins, that M4 chip and all the stuff that makes this an iPad, into this ridiculously thin frame. It's utterly mind-blowing. However, it's incredibly expensive as well. So it starts at, if you go for the 11-inch version, £999, $999. And then if you start adding on things like the Apple Pencil Pro and Magic Keyboard, although I wouldn't do that, I'd get the Logitech Combo Touch, which is my keyboard case of choice for this. It's got a detachable keyboard, it's got a kickstand, and it's got all-round protection, and it's cheaper. So put that in your basket instead. I'll put a link in the description. That said though, you're still talking at least 1,500 quid. Once you've specced up your iPad Pro, it's MacBook territory in terms of money. So this is for people who want the absolute best of the best and will not accept a 60 Hz display. They want Face ID, they want the best camera system. If that's you, you have to get the iPad Pro. And in terms of rumors for 2025, and this might have happened by the time that you watch this video, although I doubt it. The only thing they're going to do with it next is put an M5 chip in it, apparently, which, will that make any difference over the M4 chip? For most people, including people I think who work for NASA and do things with their iPads that I cannot get my head around, no, of course it won't, because no one, including those people, can make the most of the M4 chip that's in this one. It is light years ahead of anything else on the market, and it's light years ahead of the requirements that any of us have for the iPad. But it's the best one. It's incredibly smudged as well, but it's the best one you can buy. And if that's what you want, just go and buy it. Congratulations, you have everything you need to know in terms of knowledge now to buy your next iPad in 2025. The TLDR with all of this, as you've probably guessed, is just buy the one you keep looking at. Trust me, don't think about what's coming next. It doesn't matter. There'll always be something better around the corner. Remember that, on average, at least 3-year period that people keep their iPads for. The great thing about these devices is that they last so long. So whatever you buy now and arrives tomorrow or the day after is going to be wonderful. You'll love it. You'll forget about the possibilities of it being made obsolete the next day, because it won't be. Let me know in the comments which iPad you're going for in 2025, guys. And if you've still got some time, hang around for a link to another video that I think you'll find very interesting.